Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, you know me. I am what you need, and you're watching my channel. And we're about to have a discussion, so you guys can join in. It's pretty close to fight time, so I don't know how much success I will have with this. But I want to spend some time with you guys talking a little bit about the events in boxing, some of the upcoming fights that came, and some of the upcoming fights that actually happened already. So we're going to talk all about that, as well as personalities. We're going to talk about the new breed versus the old breed. We're going to talk about also some of the upcoming fights that we have. We're going to look at peripheral things to boxing. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to leave the link in the chat section so you guys can check that out. Just put the link in there. Doing that right about now. Okay. So you guys can respond. I know it's a lot of you guys going to be probably watching boxing right now, so understandable. I gotta be careful how I do this with this chat. So let me see if I can get that done. All right, so you're always free to jump in, say your piece. It's a whole point behind this. So you guys will roll in, roll out. I don't really have a lot more minutes anyway, so we're gonna try and make this as brief as possible and yet as succinct to the point. Let me get into some of the topics, some of the hot topics out here, and we'll start with the new breed versus the old school. All right, and one of the topics in here had to do with Anthony Joshua's response to all this talk about Mike Tyson coming in there and taking care of any of the elite top tier heavyweights in the division. And Anthony Joshua had this to say about Mike Tyson. He said, you know what, man, listen, what you're doing is excellent. You know, how you creating this niche of exhibitions and also this niche for older athletes who still feel they can do the sport, they feel healthy, they feel strong. And he said, you know, I commend you, man. You facing Roy Jones Jr., two great legendary fighters. He said, but you know, there's this talk going around that, you know, Mike Tyson at the age of 54, you know, he could go out there and become undisputed unified champion. Of course, Bernard Hopkins said something like that. And I listened to Roy Jones Jr. as well, and he was saying, you know, these athletes today, they don't have the skills of the guys from the past. And we've heard this over and over from previous generations of fighters. But Anthony Joshua had this to say to Mike Tyson and to anybody else thinking or itching or feeling that they could probably mix it up with the top tier guys. Shout out to 92 AKU, Old Man Fights. Yes, sir. If you want to join in the chat, the link is on top. Just click it and you can be a guest on here and you can keep on talking with me as well. Anthony Joshua said this. He said, if somebody psyched you out, you know, and told you that Mike Tyson or told you that Roy Jones Jr., don't listen to them. He said, Mike Tyson looked great on the mitts. Been doing it all his life, you know. So he's going to look great on the mitts, but the mitts don't hit back. He went on to say categorically that the fighters today are bigger, they're stronger, the kind of science and the kind of conditioning the fighters today have. And I can tell you, Mike Tyson benefiting from some of that science. One of them is, of course, gene therapy. And that's just one of several different things. I keep on explaining to people that fighters today they're bigger, they're stronger, and they're much more well-conditioned athletes than in the past. They're sharper. What I mean by sharper is they're more precise in how they go about doing their boxing. It's a very much a science today. So that's why I call it new breed versus old school. The new breed, they're no joke. You know what I'm saying? They are no joke. And I'm adding right now 92 AKU to make sure your mic is off. AKU 92. so we don't get any feedback, right? I'm gonna let you speak your piece on this because I want to hear your views on this. AJ said, now listen, Mike Tyson, listen, Roy Jones Jr., listen to any old timer. Shout out to Tommy Temper, any old timer thinking that, you know, for some reason you're gonna get chained up by the fans saying that they could take you, or Bernard Hopkins or some other professional boxer saying that, you know, you could become undisputed. If you get out there and you come into our domain, that's what Anthony Joshua said. I don't care if it's Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, myself, and several other active is the key word, heavyweights, all right, who have just a totally different caliber of fighting to your time. You were great for your time. You come into our domain where we bigger, stronger, faster, we're going to smash you. Anthony Joshua just straight up said it. I don't care what nobody says. They don't know what we do when we train and how we prepare. We will smash you. And I was listening to my boy Blue Blood Sports TV, and he said the very same thing. He said, you know, it's just not realistic. You know, it's not that Mike Tyson isn't great in of himself. It's always going to be a legend. But shout out to AKU. AKU, let's hear your piece on this matter. What do you think?
What's good? Yeah, pretty much agree. I mean, come on, like he's an old man. He's like one of the against a killing machine like AJ or Fury or Wilder. I mean, he's not gonna be good. I mean, you remember his last fight, Mike Tyson's last pay-per-view fight? It was hard to watch.
Okay. Do you believe in the concept? I've been talking about this, and a lot of professionals in boxing actually talk about this. They talk about that the eras, the different eras. A lot of people like to talk about throwback eras, and that guys from throwback eras would beat guys today. What's your view on that? I just want to hear your view on that.
Yeah, I'm a big NBA fan too. As I'm a boxing fan and an NBA fan, and they say that all the time about Michael Jordan and how this era is weak, and I'm like, well, it's hard to compare, and well, they're saying like, oh, they're on social media and all this, but I mean, it's because they didn't have it back then. They would be on it too. They didn't have it back then, and Kareem and Oscar Robertson would say to those guys in the '90s, like, we didn't have all these shoe deals and all this extra commercial stuff. I mean, we're cut from a different cloth too. They could say the same thing, but it's just these '90s guys. I mean, they're great, but I mean, you can't. It's hard to compare eras. You can only go off what they did in that era.
Well, here's my thing. If you look at music, for example, if you look at music, the old timers always say their music was better than this new
Yeah, it's true.
introduction music. When you look at sports, the old timers always say that their time was better than the time before. If you look at even in the professional arena, people will talk about how the past was better than the present. Even the social society today, people say the past times was better than the present time. People tend to be nostalgic about certain period of times and resistant to change. I've noticed that a lot. It's a common theme you find not just in sports, but in art and everything, right? So I think if people saw what these athletes do to prepare themselves for a fight versus what those guys in the past used to do, I think a lot of people would have respect for how far the sport has come. I've had guys argue with me about how athletes at the past were better athletes than the athletes today. And I understand where they're coming from. Sometimes they say, they fought like 15 rounds. I said, but by the 8th round, it was gas and they needed a second win. The guys today, the elite guys today, they go all the way through 12. They don't gas. You look at it. You look at guys like Danny Garcia. You look at guys like even Keith Thurman, right? With Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman wasn't gassed. Keith Thurman kept going. That fight was nonstop, right? Pacquiao, he gassed a bit, right? And that's considered gassing now, right? You see guys falling over on themselves back in the day. And I just don't understand how people could say, if you've watched footage at least, how you could say that the boxers today, they're inferior to the boxers of the past because they had more rounds or whatever. No, what happened was that the sport got a little bit shorter because people were killing people in the ring. And so rules were changed because what was happening? because people were doing more boxing, people were getting stronger, and eventually there'd be more deaths in the ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, no,
I
no,
feel
no,
you.
no.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, athletes today are, like you said, bigger, stronger, faster.
You know, now some people talk about certain skills and certain the way of boxing has changed a bit, and that's to be expected as well. You know, shout out to Tommy Temper. He said that the fight was pantomime. He's talking about probably Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. How excited are you for that fight, by the way?
I'm not gonna watch it. I mean, I'll see the highlights of it, but I mean, are you excited for that? I'm not.
Well, I come from actually the time of Mike Tyson and the time of Roy Jones Jr. So I grew up watching those guys fight. I grew up watching Sugar Ray Leonard fight, and his era. So I came from the 70s into the 80s, the late 70s into the 80s. So I knew about Sugar Ray Leonard. I knew about, great fighters like um, uh, Finito Lopez, all those kinds of guys, Roy Jones Jr., all those guys. So I grew up because I grew up in the mid 70s all the way up till now. So I got some age under me. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little bit younger than Roy. I'm a little bit younger than Tyson. So I came up in that era. So it excites me because I know what Roy Jones Jr. used to be able to do. I know what Mike Tyson used to be able to do. And I find it so novel, the business model that they're trying to do is kind of extend boxing now to reach out to some of the people who are nostalgic for the past. Because I have some nostalgia. I try to box like Roy Jones Jr. You know what I'm saying? So I still have that little nostalgia behind me. As straight as a boxing fan, if Canelo, for example, tomorrow goes and faces Callum Smith, I'm gonna watch that first before I watch a rerun of a pay-per-view fight. But like, I will watch it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they're somebody, I mean, they're beasts. They were beasts in their day, especially Roy. Roy. We had an argument the other day about what would happen against Charlo versus Roy Jones Jr. And some people had Charlo winning. Is that what do you think about that?
Charlo versus Roy at middleweight.
Yeah.
Uh, Jamal Charlo. I don't know. I can't say yet because see Jamal's strong. He's really strong. Uh,
Well, we're talking about prime Roy. Human highlight Roy.
Roy was fast. I'm thinking about it. I have to think about that because I never thought about that matchup. Jamal Charlo's quick too. Uh, mm, that's an interesting fight. See, Jamal is strong. This is this. See, this is the thing. Where Roy was able to get through with other fighters in his era, they weren't as strong as Jamal Charlo. You understand what I'm saying? Like Jamal would take a punch and he ain't going down. You're not going to knock down because of the training that these guys have, like this advanced sort of training they have. You can't just knock them down like that. So you know how Roy caught a guy off guard with a punch and it dropped him. That ain't gonna happen with Jamal Charlo. See,
Okay.
Jamal Charlo is really, really strong. So it's kind of when I think about it, and I'm thinking about Jamal's style. Roy used to hit you when you didn't expect it and set traps for you and stuff like that. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Roy was phenomenal. He had good reflexes, good speed. Trying to think, 160. Yeah, that was young Roy. Mm, I don't know. See, Antonio Tarver, he was southpaw though. Worked behind his jab, and the kryptonite to Roy, like most of these really skilled fighters, is the jab. Roy's long range, Charlo's long range. Who got a longer reach? We gotta find out that for a minute.
Yeah.
You gotta
The
look at
same
you gotta
probably.
have to study it to figure out who would be who.
Who hits harder?
You know, it don't matter. You gotta locate the target to hit it. So it don't matter who hit harder. You see what I'm saying? That's the first thing fans think about, who hits harder. It don't matter. See, there's a certain amount of pounds per pressure that you hit a fighter with that will drop him. But the question is, will the fighter ever be in a position to get dropped by that? So
True.
so there's a lot of, boxing's a thing where you got to find a guy. You usually find a guy by using your jab. So I'm feeling the distance with my jab. I'm trying to find you with my jab, right? So once I find you, Roy would also set traps for you to bring you to him. So once I find you in space, then I'm gonna pinpoint my target and go at what I want. So
Interesting.
with
So who do you have?
with these guys like Charlo and Roy's kind of more of an outboxer. He don't really fight on the inside. Jamal Charlo is the same thing. He don't fight on the inside. So the question will be this: will Roy be standing directly in front of Charlo to set the traps to get him? And what does Jamal Charlo do if he falls for the trap? We've seen Jamal Charlo get tagged numerous times by many different guys. It did not faze him. Like, he didn't even blink, right? So what happens when Roy can't really trouble Charlo like that? Meaning, it doesn't matter. His punches are going to be hard, but Charlo going to eat those punches. Now, that might be in Roy's favor. He might be able to spin Charlo all around, turn him around, play around with him, right? Like he did James Toney, and but James Toney wasn't, he wasn't full-fledged James Toney. He wasn't full strength. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that you have to look at with that. I can't say straight off the bat what would happen with him and Jamal Charlo. I could tell you much more about him and say, for instance, a fighter like Triple G maybe, or maybe I know he'd beat Triple G. I know he'd beat him. Even though Triple G will be walking through everything, Triple G don't have that kind of defense. And but Triple G will eat it up. Like, again, the training. You understand what I'm saying? So Roy would be
monsters right now.
Right. There's certain things that these guys, man, they just eat up the shot and keep coming, right? And so it's a little bit different today versus back in the day where you catch a guy with a shot, you drop him. You drop him with that shot. Not today, boy. They conditioned for that. So
how fired up are you for the Charlo pay-per-view fights? I mean, I'm fired up.
Oh, that's a great fight. Charlo versus Derevyanchenko gonna be a great fight. I'm very fired up for that fight. That fight hasn't been materialized. They materialized the date, the contract signing and everything for that.
Yeah, they're both official.
That's supposed to happen. That's actually an upcoming fight. That's
October, I think. No.
Charlo versus Sergey Derevyanchenko is September the 26th, I think it is. The same day with Jamel Charlo versus Jason Rosario, right? Rosado.
Yes, sir.
Rosario. That's gonna be a good fight. Oh man, I'm very excited for those two fights because it's almost like a 50-50 fight in a way. Derevyanchenko, he's desperate to win a title. You know what I'm saying? I think basically he won the title with the last fight against Triple G, but I know the knockdown kind of sort of leaned the fight to Triple G's favor, but I thought Derevyanchenko did an excellent job in that. And he's going to give Jamal Charlo some problems. Definitely going to give him some problems. And he got a great trainer too. So I'm looking forward to that because Derevyanchenko, that's what he do. He fights mid-range to inside. That's gonna be a good fight. Shout out to Tommy Temper in the comment section. And the other Jamel Charlo, he gonna be facing Jason Rosario, who just decimated J-Rock. Like, he just totally destroyed him. And he seems to have good counterpunching skills. I just found out Jason's from the Dominican Republic, right?
Yeah, I think so. He's one of those.
Yeah, he's from the Dominican. Yep, he's from the Dominican Republic. Got skills. Them boys got skills up in there.
Yeah, shout out to Heyman. Shout out to Heyman for putting these guys, like you said, these are kind of like 50-50 fights. Kind of dangerous.
Oh yeah, they people saying Jamel Charlo might knock out Jason Rosario. I don't see it happening. Jason looks strong. He looks solid. I don't know. Both guys can blast, but I don't think that's going to be the key. The key here is going to be who could box better. And Jason showed he could counter. He's got good counterpunching skills, and he got more to his game than J-Rock did. J-Rock had that counter right hand, and he was working that counter right hand or those uppercuts as a counter. But Jason was doing a lot more than that, So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I know I'm fired up. I'm definitely gonna pay for that one. The other pay-per-view, I don't think I'm gonna pay for the
Which one is
Leo.
that?
Tank versus Leo.
Tank versus
Tank,
Leo.
yeah.
Tank working now. Tank is definitely working now. So we're
Yeah.
gonna see if Tank make that 130. I think he might. We'll see. I don't know. He has to keep that same energy all the way up till fight night on the scales, out of fight night, stay disciplined. Leo still Leo still got an advantage. His conditioning always been on par. Tank always have to get into shape. Leo never had to get into shape. Leo always is in shape. So that works in Leo's favor. And that's the key in boxing, is about outlasting your opponent, being very well conditioned. You know, that's one of the big things in boxing. If you're well conditioned, you can ride any storm and you can go all the way to the finish line with a certain amount of output, a certain amount of punches you could throw. So if you're a well conditioned fighter, you can take punches much better than one that's getting into condition and he's out of condition, he's in condition. So that's something. Tank gonna be like Tyson early on. I mean, Tank carries his power all the way through, but early on, he gonna be explosive. If he don't get Leo out of there early, we going for 12 rounds. All right. So if Tank is training for 12, we good. And I think he is. I think he's
Yeah.
committed to it.
Yeah. No, I don't
Um,
know. I'm not a big Leo fan. His fights are kind of boring, and I don't see him having the power to put to make Tank think or to respect it. So I just see Tank going in there just
well,
murdering him,
you'll see.
sending him to hell for sure.
This is this is Leo Santa Cruz, man. He fought Abner Mars, Cal Frampton. He fought what's the other guy? He fought four world champions. Four world champions. What's the guy's name? I forgot his name. You know, came to me in it. Kiko Martinez. He fought him too. Former world
True, yeah,
champion.
you got a point.
I'm just
And then
saying.
Tank's not the most proven because he only has really Pedraza. So yeah, you're right. He's not. We're gonna see. We're gonna see what these guys are made of in this fight.
For sure. Leo's been there around. He's been around for a while. The other thing about Leo is Leo can keep on churning out nonstop, you know, activity. He's a very, very busy fighter. So if he churns out that activity and he's pumped for Tank, this is the fight he wanted. So he's getting at the right weight, which is 130. That's where they both will meet. And I think it's gonna be a better fight than people think. People just think Tank's just gonna go in there and blast him out. I don't see that. Leo's got a lot of experience. He's fought at the top level several times. This is a fight he wanted. I remember he beat Adrian Broner in the amateurs. So this guy is not just people think that Leo is just this dude who been ducking a lot of people, whatever. No, he's not just some guy that's just going to sit in there and just go lay down. They're going to have a game plan. They're going to try and ride out Tank early and see what Tank got in his tank in the middle rounds. And then they're gonna really put it on later on. Leo picks up the steam round by round by round. He picks up the intensity round by round by round. So we're going to see how Tank handles that challenge. I think that's a good challenge for Tank. And I don't think that Tank's going to blast Leo out of there. I think the same thing. I didn't expect Tank to blast Yurkus Gamboa out of there, and Gamboa showed us so much more. He had all his veteran experience. He used all the tricks in the trade, to keep his feet and his momentum going. With Tank couldn't get him out of there. So it was a learning experience for Tank, and he's going to have another learning experience with Leo Santa Cruz. If he manages to blast Leo out of there in a couple of rounds, then it really wasn't a good fight for him. The fight favors him in that he's going to have somewhat of a weight advantage because he'll be probably the bigger guy going into that fight. But Leo's going to be the taller guy. He's going to have more reach. He showed us he could box Abner Mars and use his jab. He keep your fundamentals. Leo's fundamentally strong. He's not just a banger. He's not just a trader. And the thing about Leo that a lot of people are missing, what is Leo's greatest asset? He a body puncher. He's a body puncher.
And he
So
throws a lot.
that's a serious thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he throws a lot too, and I mean, I'm still gonna be if BK's, even though I think that's what's gonna happen, it's still gonna be just as impressive because I mean, he's a top level, top 20 pound for 25 pound for pound. So I think Tank should get his credit, even though I think that's what's gonna happen. I think he's gonna KMO, which is always good.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Tank just blow Leo out of there. That's just my thing. I think I'll be very surprised if Tank just came in there and stopped Leo. I'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Or what about Fury Wilder 3? I'm excited for that when that happens.
Well, that
Think
looks like
about
it's
it.
going to be Furies again, but we'll see what Wilder can bring to the table to change our minds. Anthony Joshua versus I got it wrong with Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. I thought Andy Ruiz was going to knock out Anthony Joshua, and he boxed Andy Ruiz so brilliantly. Andy Ruiz doesn't even know what happened. He's blaming his weight and all of that. He didn't understand what Anthony Joshua did to him in the ring. Really outboxed him, outboxed him. Beautiful stuff, in and out kind of movement, just couldn't gauge the distance. Andy Ruiz trying to find him in space, and Anthony Joshua wasn't there, he was another place, and just a lot of high science that Anthony Joshua put into that game plan there. I loved it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, on AJ. Yeah, a lot of his own
He should
fans
have
were
watched
telling him.
Anthony Joshua's feet, not his upper body, because it's a deception. I try to tell people all the time. Sometimes you think I'm where you think I am in space, but really, once I turn my body, I'm out of alignment with where you're going at. So a lot of times, boxers see this. This is a little trick of the trade. Boxers have their body, their feet, in a different plane to their upper body, and some guys know how to turn their body. Like for instance, when you're looking at me right now, right? I'm going to do a little something. I'll make a little adjustment. So I look like I am facing the camera, right? I'm facing this camera. But really and truly, you're not seeing my lower part of my body. I'm really over here. See? So when you throw a shot at me,
Yeah.
you're going to miss, right? And if I'm stepping around you, you're totally going to miss. And that's what happened with Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua. It was just beautiful. And he was very in range all the time. He'd come in, he'd go out, he'd feint him as if he's going to come in, and then he stepped back, and just beautiful stuff. Now, some people call that posturing. That's not posturing. Posturing is when you're just standing in front of a guy and you change levels, but you're not really going to do nothing. That's posturing. Feinting is where you're putting an intention of doing something, but you do something else. You do something else is the key. Whereas posturing is where you just kind of you freeze, and you're trying to get your opponent to freeze so you can buy time. So that I listen to the language people talk about running and posturing, and that's not. It never was. It was always feinting. And the only way somebody gonna bite in your feint is because you actually did the thing first, and then you feint them. So
Yeah.
But this is it's just beautiful. I think that Tyson Fury has everything to beat Deontay Wilder. He's a superior boxer. He's got the length, the height, the reach, and then he can infight on top of that. He can collapse, infight, use his weight, his size, push his opponent back, push him around, wear him out. So Tyson Fury got a lot of advantages, and because his game is so diverse, he's got a lot of game. Then he's very quick himself, quick with his feet, quick with his upper body. It's going to be very difficult for Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight out there, even though he'd been involved in a lot of controversies and did a lot of weird things. He is the best heavyweight out there. And a lot of people, including, I was listening to Roy Jones Jr. about Tyson Fury, how, he's not as skilled as fighters of his day and waste time, whatever. And I got to say, this man's 6'9", 250 something pounds, and he moves like he's a middleweight. There's no way you get, I can't describe how this dude is special. Okay. He's special, and it's just what it is. So, I think that Wilder versus AJ, I still pick Wilder to beat AJ. If I know AJ's a scientist and he proved me wrong, he just had to prove me wrong again, because I think Wilder has a reaction time that's very, very fast. For a heavyweight, he's very, very quick. Okay, Mike Tyson can do it quick in little bursts of time, right? Wilder, he's rangy, he's athletic, he could change directions on the drop of a dime, and he got his fundamental jab. He popped. His down jab, he popped from here. Well, right? He popped from the shoulder. He got the down jab, very effective jab. Tries to mix it up to the body and head. He's got some pedigree, got some skill. Obviously, he can box good. He's not the best boxer out there. So, he has a decent jab. He really does have a decent jab. and he tries different things. But I just think that I don't know. I mean, he's gonna have to prove me wrong on this one. I can't just ride with him just like that. You know, he's gonna have to prove me wrong on that fight. AKU, man. Let me ask you. Let me tell you a fight that I was excited about. I want to hear what your take is on Lomachenko versus um Lopez and
Lopez.
what's happening with what's happening with the transaction. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that reporter Mike Coppinger, he tweeted out yesterday that Lopez's team pulled back from negotiations, so that was kind of disappointing. But maybe hopefully it's just a little negotiation tactic. But man, come on, they're really deep in the negotiations. Like, hope they close it out. Like, this is one of the biggest fights if they get it of the year. So I mean, like, fight wise, I think, oh man, it's an awesome fight. Like, you got Lomachenko, you know, number one 135er, and you got Lopez, who
For
just
sure.
KO'd a champion in the second round, who just
Right.
these last 2 years, it seems like he's on a rocket ship stardom. So that just makes a great matchup, and his style is exciting, and his power, speed, got everything. I mean, favorite Loma just because I seen him beat a lot of top guys, but I mean, damn, it was a good fight. Hope it happens.
I hear you, man. I got a couple questions for you on this topic. One is Lomachenko always wanted this fight, right? And they are negotiating. How much you think that fight, though, in pay-per-view revenue will make through ESPN? Because the question is, do you think they can make back their revenue via pay-per-view? You think enough people cross-stream people? Do you think that Lopez brings enough of an audience, enough of a crowd, enough fans and supporters that will come to see that fight because of Lopez? Because I don't know how many people will come to see will watch the pay-per-view fight because of Lomachenko. You know, as good as he is, you know, he still that name hasn't hit mainstream media. And the question is, has Lopez? You think Lopez's name has started hitting at least the his generation, his crop of athletes, the 20-year-olds, the new generation of fans out there, like Ryan Garcia seems to be lighting up the place with. Do you think he's on that kind of trajectory? Do you think that he'd be able to bring those fans into there? Because that's the major reason why I think he should get more. If he can show that he's got this fan base or this set of people who are interested in what he brings to the table, then he's got some clout in negotiations. Otherwise, you know, it's like, I mean, you got to take what you can get.
Yeah, I feel you. Um, his style should be paid more, but I don't even think 20-year-olds watch boxing. I go to work and man, no, none of the young people at my work will watch boxing. You just got like older 30s people that watch boxing. They're all in UFC. I like UFC too. But I mean, there's only place where I could talk boxing where like other hardcore fans are. Because I mean, at work, man, ain't not that many boxers. There's like three of us. I like 100. So that's why we're on here, right? Because this is where we can. Because I mean, this
So you're a 20-something-year-old.
yeah, I'm 28.
Okay,
28.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
so I've
what do
been watching
what do
boxing.
people your age talk mostly about? Do they talk about combat sports or do they talk about other things? What really gets their interest at your age group?
NBA for sure. NBA out here and UFC. Like they'll talk about like their casual boxing. They'll talk about Floyd or Connor, like boxing fights, or Pacquiao, or the heavyweights really got their attention. And I've noticed the casuals with the heavyweights, so that's always good. And connect.
Okay,
They're not like hardcore nerds.
cool. So they don't know Lopez nor Lomachenko.
Not I think I think they know the name Lomachenko, but he should be a superstar, but he's not. Like he's just not a superstar. And maybe it's the English or just I think Top Rank failed Lomachenko. Like he just didn't. Maybe it was because of the promotional stuff, and they can't put. But I think he should have been better than what he is right now. Because what they reported was 3.25 for Lomachenko and 1.2 for
Right,
Lopez. So that was like a total like
right.
looking at 5 million kind of around there for the card. So I don't know how many I don't know how many pay-per-views they would get. The hardcore fans we're gonna buy that. We're gonna buy that.
Right.
So I mean, how much? But I mean, look at Wilder and Fury. They promoted that, and I mean, it kind of underachieved. They got like 800K
Yeah,
or
but Wilder and Fury are guys that are just huge. Like Fury gets your attention. He's very charismatic. He's very he's controversial. He says things, and so that you get a big response from Tyson Fury in the boxing world and also outside people of the boxing world. People know him. And then Tyson Fury has associated himself with mental challenges. So Tyson Fury is kind of getting himself out there, and then he went to WWE and he did his thing. So Tyson Fury's kind of got a wider audience. And Deontay Wilder, is very charismatic again. And now the Black Lives Matter thing, he kind of associated himself with that. So he kind of gets himself out there. And I think those two guys have been on mainstream TV. I don't ever remember Lomachenko being on mainstream TV. Like, for instance, Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, they've already been on that talk show, that late night talk show. What's the name of it? I forgot. Which just covers,
Jimmy Kimmel.
Not Kim. Were they on, I think Tyson was on Kimball and Roy was on that other night show. I forgot what the name of it is with the guy from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay, yeah. Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, yeah. So you see, now when you get that kind of media, that's the crossover we're talking about. You get that crossover. And I don't know what their promotional team has, but a guy like Lomachenko who's just phenomenal. This guy won a world champion in his third fight.
Yeah.
This guy is doing some extraordinary things. He should be on crossover TV. Why are they not getting him up in the NBC or ABC? And then maybe this is where I think that Fox and Showtime, they're trying to get that going as well. I can see a Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence fight, for example, being on, different networks that have nothing to do with boxing. You know what I mean? And that's the scope and that's the magnitude we need. So a lot of people know Mayweather and Pacquiao. Why? They made CNN. They made, media outlets that are outside of boxing.
Yeah.
You got to get the boxers way out of there. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know why. I mean, it hasn't. Maybe I don't know how the system works, but I got if you're gonna do a pay-per-view, I think at least work with Netflix or some emerging company, because now we have social media and now we have Netflix, we have streaming services. Work with them, not just ESPN. They're counting on ESPN because it's a sports center. They think that people are gonna see their fight or the promoted fight because it's ESPN. You got to go beyond that. You got to go to, you got to look at demographics and you got to look at, how you can get these guys out there in other platforms that don't have anything to do with boxing. That's what Tyson Fury did with himself. And the fight didn't make as much money as people expected it to make, but it did make about, it made a million buys. The second Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight made 1 million buys. So they're doing something right.
I heard numbers was at like 800K. What I read.
Yeah, that was initially, but they pulled in the other stuff, and if you go Wikipedia or wherever, you'll see it made 1 million buys. But the point is that they made that. You know what I'm saying? That's good money, right?
Oh yeah. Everyone got paid.
Everybody got paid. So I don't see Teofimo Lopez because it's his first pay-per-view. It's Loma's first pay-per-view. Nobody's a pay-per-view star. I don't expect it to be big money, but it gets them on the tracking to that. If they can somehow garner maybe, let's say 250K to 300K pay-per-view buys, that would be great. That would be great. And especially where people can attend the sporting event, you might have more pay-per-view buys. Hopefully, we could have that. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking as far as numbers. It's like 250 bottom end to 400 max, no more than 400. So around there.
If they can make 400 pay-per-view buys, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. That could change. That could
How
change
much
the
did
way
the
we look
pack?
at the sport.
Yeah, how much did the pack and Thurman did? I forgot that number. Like
Pacquiao
crazy.
versus Thurman. I don't know. I actually had to look it up. I actually have to look it up. I don't think it didn't get past. I don't think it got past 400 pay-per-view buys. But Pacquiao's huge though.
Yeah.
Pacquiao's huge. Keith Thurman's exciting. It was an exciting fight. You know,
Yeah, you
a lot
see,
of
that's what
tunes
I
from
mean. So
there.
I don't see it doing more than that. So that's what I was kind of
Oh no,
thinking.
no, no. No way, no way. Unless the fight turns out to be one that's spectacular. Even if it turns out to be spectacular, it's not probably going to do that. But what it does is it sets up for if they do have another pay-per-view, people will watch the ESPN Top Rank card because if ESPN and Top Rank put on, you know, very entertaining fight. Like the first Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight turned out to be very entertaining, and their pay-per-view numbers weren't that great. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So the second Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, the pay-per-view numbers went way up in the sky compared to the initial fight. So it could set the foundation for what people would expect. Because if you miss something that was really good, it sets up for, you know what? Let me try and get the other one just in case, you know? So this is the kind of thing that can work out there. I think that if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you follow women's, well, you follow boxing, so you're hardcore. Let me ask you this one. Tremaine Williams versus Angelo Lee. Stephen Fulton, he had to leave because of COVID-19. He was detected, he and his coach detected with COVID-19, so he's using treatment now. What do you think of that matchup? Well, I think it's going on right now as we speak. It might be going on right now as we speak. I think it's the main event on Showtime.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest.
Tremaine Williams versus
I don't know who those guys are. I'm not
Oh, you
on
don't
those
know
guys.
them?
No,
Okay.
that's a
Let me
next
give you a
level
little
hardcore.
background. Okay, that's no problem. I'm not really as hardcore as you think I am, but it's just that I got a heads up from True Sports TV about this, so I decided to check it out. It was initially Stephen Fulton from Philadelphia versus Angelo Lee, who's in the Mayweather boxing gym. And Angelo Lee, I took a look at him. You know, kind of reminds me a little bit of Battle Jack kind of boxing, where he gets to the inside, but he works his way off of boxing. So he kind of stays with a two guard sometimes. Sometimes he to protect himself on the outside and jab his way to the inside. Sometimes he uses leaping leg hooks. A body puncher, he likes to attack the body a lot, but he can box on the outside as well. And he can fight orthodox or southpaw. So he's versatile. And then, well, I don't know too much about Tremaine Hawkins. I was listening to the Boxing Voice, and they were saying that that was a guy that actually used to listen to the Boxing Voice, and it seems as though he got his shot a little earlier than he expected. You know, because he was actually going to face somebody on the undercard. He doesn't have as much experience as Angelo Leo, but he's put in that position. I heard he's a decent boxer. They say it reminds him of Lil B Hop, aka what's his name? Ooh, I forgot his name right now. But yeah, him. And I don't know. I don't know how that fight will go, but it is a fight that should be interesting and a good mix and match. So sometimes it's good to watch boxers who you don't really know. To me, it's the funnest thing in the world because you discover new boxers. But
Oh, okay,
Sans.
you saw all the top rank cards, most of them.
Oh no, 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 no! I have not. I saw some of them. I didn't get to see all of them, and I wanted to see Shakur Stevenson versus the opponent that he had, but I wasn't able to see it. I saw it kind of after the fact, and it wasn't the whole fight. I just saw where he hit him with the body shot and put him down. I didn't
Yeah,
get to
see,
see a lot of
that's
fights.
what
I
I
didn't get
mean,
to see a
man.
lot of
Like,
fights.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, we're like, see, we're big boxing fan. We're not gonna watch. We're not gonna. That's not gonna get our attention. Like, we need to see like these
Right.
guys need to step up.
Unfortunately,
They need to step up. The promoters.
yeah. The problem with it is that I mean they're proceeding forward, which is a very good thing, and they broke the barrier with the COVID. They were the first, but the thing about it is, and if boxers do need to stay, doing something, but the thing about it is that they only depend on ESPN, you know, and they kind of depend on social media, but not really. You know, they how do I put this? They're trying to get boxes out there, so they're just putting them up on TV, right? But you don't just put a box out there. You got to make a profile of them. You have to see what they don't understand is that this is not the age of television anymore. Television is like yesterday's news. Now we're dealing with streaming and social media. So they should find ways and means to introduce us to these boxes, give us a little story behind them, and the old way of how ESPN used to do things from way back in the 80s and stuff, they need to depart with that model and have a much more dynamic model. Um, I think best way to do it is like how you said the UFC model is one of the ideas you could use. So you feature the fighters and you summarize them really nicely in a spectacular sort of way, and then you go into your fights. And I think that that's the way how to do it, because what I like about UFC is there's always a hype man there and he's talking very excitable, and you could tell there's excitement behind these fights. And they don't get that same kind of excitement. You get a kind of a, okay, let's wait and see what this fighter can do.
Yeah, true.
You know?
And in the UFC, they match them up. They match them up hella early. Like within like 3 fights, they're already fighting in the top 20. You know, boxing, you go like you can go a whole 20 fights without fighting a named fighter.
So they match them up pretty early as well there. So again, we don't want to have the Senicia Estrada versus what happened, I think it was last weekend. We don't want somebody who doesn't have that kind of experience facing somebody who has experience. I think though, like what you say, guys with about similar experience should be matched up with each other. And there are a lot of fighters out there and a lot of boxers. The problem with boxing is that guys last minute just drop out. Like they don't want to. Certain fighters are so scary that some boxers just don't want to face them, and they just they say, you know what, yeah, after the fight, and then all of a sudden they just drop out. And that's the problem with boxing. Boxing, the fights are not necessarily finalized because you don't just have one governing body, so it's not necessarily finalized.
Yeah, with the Sinisa and Strada fight, what's crazy is if she would have fought like a normal her original opponent and it went like the normal 8 rounds, 10 rounds, it wouldn't got that much attention, but it wouldn't have gone viral. But I mean, it's crazy how that knockout, like within like I guess 10 seconds, got her all that attention. So it's like it's crazy, you know.
It got her the attention, but it wasn't necessarily positive attention. That was the problem with it. Because
That's the
that
most
girl
attention she's ever gonna get, probably. Like, unfortunately, in women's boxing.
was Tanisha Estrada.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo. She is on the cusp of being a superstar
I mean,
very
she's a
soon.
pleasure for me. I mean, I follow her Instagram. I mean, I'm
Oh yeah,
definitely watching.
she's bad.
But, but
She is a bad. She is a bad lady. A shout out to Chris. Chris coming into the chat right now. There you go.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a minute.
Yeah, man. What's up with you?
Just been chilling, man. Just working hard as I can. You know what I'm saying?
Man, at least you get to work during this time, this COVID-19 environment. We're talking right now about structure of fights, and we're looking at some upcoming fights, and we're talking about the most recent one was Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez, and whether that fight is in jeopardy or not. So let me hear your take on Loma versus Teofimo Lopez. What do you think about what Lopez is doing by turning down the offer for $1.2 million?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, like Lomachenko was supposed to get $3 million, and I just think that's a fair price because you're facing a 3 world division champion. He's already unified in that fight. I mean, you know, he beat Linares, he beat Luke Campbell. So you have Lopez, who is just got the belt, haven't even retained it yet. No one really knows you, and you're getting 1.2 million. You know, this is your first fight. You know, getting that much money. and like this is very early in your career. Like who else in like where your career is at got that much money that soon, and you only got your first title and haven't even retained it yet.
That's a good point. I mean, it is early in his career. But do you think it would have been a pay-per-view if it wasn't Lopez?
You got a point there too. Like I don't, I guess because I watched Lomachenko film studying and like I just know boxing. I guess I don't know how much the casuals know about Lomachenko, but I don't. But as far as to me, I'm looking at it from like a I don't know, just the experience level. I mean, I just think it's fair, but but look at the business side of things. I see what you're saying about the pay-per-view, because if he's bringing in the most people, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, those checks got to come.
Yeah, because you remember Ryan Garcia was haggling with Oscar about money for I think it was the Duno fight, and he said, "I ain't fighting Duno till I get paid the proper amount." Because again, Garcia, he's a big name. He brings the crowds, right?
Yeah.
So
he's very
that's one of the
famous
more
definitely on Instagram. He almost got 1 million followers. He probably got that by now.
right. So if Garcia does a pay-per-view tomorrow, you're guaranteed he's gonna bring big money into the company, because all those followers are going to dial into him, right? They're diehard
And this
followers.
is
So,
Lomachenko first pay-per-view,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yep.
yo. Yeah, looking at it from that side, yeah, yo, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
at least
and then
if you're gonna
Teofimo
give
Lopez.
Lomachenko 3, man, just with that, just knowing how much you're gonna get off the purse, I would say about 25.
I'm saying Teo, for unifications, generally speaking, now Loma does have 2 belts, and Teo one got 1, right?
Right.
I don't know if it's 3 belts. He's
It really
franchise
should be
champion.
3
I
belts.
don't know how that works. You said AKU?
Like it should really be three belts, but they gave him like the franchise, and David Haney got the belt, and
Oh yeah, and
really
they
he's 3
making
belts.
that undisputed fight.
I guess it's for Loma. I don't know how it's even undisputed. See, this is the thing. Loma is the real champion. The problem with it is, I don't know why. I don't even understand why this franchise champion thing. It makes no sense. He should have the WBC belt, not Devin Haney. Okay. If Devin Haney want to have interim belt, cool. But he should not have the WBC belt. So this is what doesn't make any sense to me. If Teofimo
Oh
Lopez beat
yeah, so
Lomachenko,
yeah.
if
Wait,
Teofimo beats
where's my
Lomachenko,
mute button at? Hold on. You press
oh, you don't
mic?
have to worry about that.
You sure?
You don't have to
Okay.
worry about that. Yeah. And AK, you don't have to worry about it either. My thing is that Teofimo, if he wins, let's say he beats Lomachenko, then it means, what is Teofimo getting? Because he's not going to get the franchise championship. That's a designation that cannot be transferred.
Oh yeah,
So
that
will he
don't
have
make
to face
sense.
Devin Haney to get the WBC? What's going on with that?
But that's be unfair because that makes no sense. How will they make this an undisputed fight if Lomachenko lose? Because Devin Haney
Exactly.
still got the WBC.
This is what I don't understand, why the WBC came with this franchise championship. Listen,
He'd be
if it was
unofficial.
because
He'd be undefeated. Go ahead.
listen, it never needed to be. Let me tell you why. Devin Haney was his mandatory, right?
True.
But unifications supersede mandatories if you get permission to do the unification before a certain time. So he never needed the franchise championship. All he had to do, I know Teofimo Lopez didn't beat he didn't beat what's the guy's name that he beat?
Richard Comey.
Richard Comey. He didn't beat Richard Comey. But all Lomachenko had to do was put out, I want to face the winner of Richard Comey versus Teofimo Lopez.
Right.
And the WBC would have just halt everything, so he didn't have to face his mandatory, and he just wait on out. I don't even understand why he did. That's why I said this belt is just so like not necessary. You
Nah,
know.
but I don't know. A lot of people been saying I just can't see why he would duck any fighter of where he's at, especially with all these young dudes out here. I would think he would be thinking like, man, like, these guys are too inexperienced for me. But I don't know. That franchise belt, all he has to do is get the WBC. Like, he had 3 belts already. All you needed was one more to be undisputed. Who cares about some franchise belt? Undisputed been here forever.
And he was on the verge of being undisputed. So even if Devin Haney was knocking on the door, right? Lomachenko could simply have said, "I'm gonna become undisputed and come back and defend against you." It's real simple. And if Devin Haney's still knocking on the door, Lomachenko could say, "Listen, WBC, I want to become undisputed first before I face this mandatory," and that would have been it. Because didn't he have a voluntary? He should have had a voluntary. So he could have just enacted his voluntary, right? Because he just got the WBC from Luke Campbell. So he could have just invoked his voluntary match in which he would have gotten unification, and that would have been it. So I don't understand why he even used the franchise belt and asking for it. That was like really dumb.
It's pointless.
It just complicates everything, man.
It really does.
But with Teofimo Lopez, I can understand why these younger fighters, they're very much aware now of what other fighters around them are getting and the business of boxing, because all these fighters talk with one another. Teofimo, he's with Top Rank, but Raleigh Romero, he's with Mayweather Promotions, and Ryan Garcia, who's with Golden Boy. Them boys be talking somewhere in the background. They always talking.
Yeah.
Right? So they know what each other's making. You know what I mean? So they are aware of what their value is. So you can't fool them. They know what they bring to the table and everything. And listen, in boxing, you got to get what you could get now, because you never know what could happen tomorrow.
And that's the thing. And when I look at like Charlos, Billy Joe Saunders, like, you got to understand, they watched the Triple G fight, you know what I'm saying? And Triple G really should have won that fight. So they're looking at it from like, okay, if I'm going to lose my O, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to need all my worth.
Yeah. I mean, and even if, the O is kind of important in a way, but even if they're going into a fight, Jamal Charlo knows his worth. What I mean by that is he knows who he beat and so on, but he also knows the kind of power, the star power he brings to the table. And also, Jamal Charlo is a promoter. So he wears 2 hats. Right? They have Alliance only promotions. So they have fighters under them. So it's not just, I'm just a fighter. They know the business of boxing. So and Jamel and Jamal co-promoted their own event. The last 2 events they had, I think, with Tony Harrison and so on, they co-promoted that. So you have to understand, they're not just coming in there as fighters. They're coming in there with a lot more clout than people think. So they get paid. They get paid for what they do.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean, the boxers today are more business savvy, but don't get it twisted. It's not really. Some people are ducking. Okay, some people are ducking. Okay, I could call names, but I won't call names. Some people are ducking in boxing today. But what I'm saying is that most of the people, a lot of the younger boxers now are very much aware of the business. You can't just exploit them. Back in the day, boxers were exploited for what they didn't know about the business side of boxing by promoters.
Yeah.
Right. And Mike Tyson was robbed a host of the money. Zab Judah was robbed a host of the money from Don King. And fighters will tell you, this promoter still owe me money.
So basically, all Don King fighters.
A lot of.
Can you hear me now?
A lot of fighters are being exploited by promoters and managers, and that's one of those things where now, before you get into the business of boxing, a lot of fighters are learning. I mean, before you get into professional boxing, a lot of fighters are learning about you know, having certain people around them, you know, what to get when they have some business savvy about how to approach a fight or promotion. So like Andre Ward was never going to take chicken feed for Kovalev fight. They were trying to get him to do that, and he was like, no, 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 no go, no go. You gotta make it right, you know. So you know, and boxing's so dirty that people they just want to get one on you. They want to exploit you. So
All
that's the way it
facts.
goes.
Yeah.
It's just what it is, you know. And remember, these boxers are the exception to the rule. Is like just like a handful of them that get big money. Most of the other boxers, they be groveling and fighting and just clawing just to get some money because most of their money goes away to the promoter or whoever they have. So I was just listening to Truck. Truck is what's his name? What's his real name? I forgot. I think he's Hasim Rahman's nephew or something like that. Truck, who's from Baltimore.
Right.
Tank and Truck. What's his real name?
Tank. Tank.
Truck.
Hank Davis.
Truck is a 160, 154 pounder. But he is very savvy to the business of boxing. He understands the ins and outs. And he was talking about he and his uncle, they're not looking to like, you know, right now get under a big promotional banner. They smart enough to understand that they are building because they know how to do it. They know how to build a fighter. So they're building their fighter. So they look for the particular opponent they want to face to help him grow as a fighter. And when he reaches to a certain point, so he's like he and his uncle are self-managing, self-promoting themselves, and they're moving up the chain. Kind of like Roy Jones Jr. did something like that. And also Bernard Hopkins self-managing, you know? So these guys are so savvy to the sport now, they can promote their own self up to a certain level. Then they'll have to join a promotional company. But by that point in time, they're going to have fighters under them. So they have some more clout and more say in what they want to do in the sport. So they're approaching it now. Understand how Golden Boy treated certain fighters, how Top Rank treated certain fighters, how Mayweather Promotion treated certain fighters. They look at those big conglomerate companies and Matchroom and those guys, and they say, okay, they big companies. We don't need upward mobility to be with these big companies. We could do this on our own to a certain point. So they're building and establishing themselves. And after that, now they're going to go on to something else. So it's very, very smart what he's doing. I can't explain how smart he is. And I guess because, again, his uncle know the business very well because he was a boxer. And he knows the in and outs of the business now. And having been burnt a number of times, he's able to do that. Hey, can you just mute your microphone for a second? There you go.
Was that you guys?
Okay. It was somebody. I think it was AKU. Yeah. I gotta cut this thing short. We got so much ground to cover. Let me just try and go through these fights here first. Did you get to see Ron Visai versus Amat Roaring? You know who I'm talking about?
No. I'm still like a casual, so I only know like the main popular ones.
Okay, so let's look to the big fights there. You know Terry Harper? No. Okay, forget her. Cecilia Brækhus, you ever heard of her?
Okay, look, I feel like this. Like, I just know the big fights like Lomachenko. I'm still trying to figure out who Pacquiao's going to fight next.
Right, so let's talk about Pacquiao then. Pacquiao, we're hearing Pacquiao versus Crawford. We're hearing Pacquiao versus Mikey. We're hearing Pacquiao versus Triple G. Which guy you think that Manny Pacquiao might be able to face in the future? Who you think he's going to face, realistically speaking? Any one of those guys? Maybe Mikey?
The pattern of Pacquiao career, like he usually always defend that belt first. He usually always try to retain his belt. So I think it is probably going to be Mikey.
Sounds like that.
I don't want him to fight Mikey. But
I don't have a problem with Mikey, to be honest with you. Mikey just beat Jesse Vargas anyway. So Mikey versus Lomachenko. And the thing about it is
Pacquiao beat.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Vargas beat Pacquiao, beat Jesse Vargas. Mikey beat Jesse Vargas. Mikey knocked down Jesse Vargas. Pacquiao
Yeah,
knocked down Jesse Vargas. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good little matchup. You know.
it's gonna sell regardless,
Um,
though. That's the thing about it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it because Pacquiao already made his legacy. If you really want to push for it and go after Crawford, but because Bob Arum saying that, it looks like they might want to go at that. I'll be cool with that as well. I mean,
Yeah,
Pacquiao versus anybody is, I mean, it's
it's
anything could
crazy.
happen.
It's gonna
Because
be crazy
I
either way.
I was studying him. I think I put it up in the community feed. That man's feet and hands are just ridiculous. He just changed speed on you, and
I
before you can
seen
say
that one
boo,
you showed. Yeah, I seen that one. Yeah,
you
like
saw it. It's
yeah, the
crazy,
way
man.
he fainted. He fainted before he threw those jabs.
Yeah,
And
he
then he
fainted in
changed
flight.
up the speed with the first two,
Woo, I tell
and
you,
then he
man.
came
And
back with the right hand. The way he came back with the right hand when I was really the jab, like it was just so crazy. Like
it's so
Thurman
fast.
probably
Like,
thought a jab was about to come up, but it wasn't a
you know what I'm
jab though.
saying?
Like that's crazy.
Crazy. He did a double jab. He went, and he's moving as he's doing the double jab. He stuttered step first, but
Yeah,
it's so quick. Like, back in the day, he would just stutter, and then he come in. Nope. He on the move, and then he just stutter step, and his
exactly.
feet are so quick, and his hands
Yeah,
crazy. And he hit him to the body, boom, boom. Well, southpaw, right hand, left hook is what we use. Orthodox do. Southpaw hit you, boom, boom, clock it. I was like, wow,
he
that was so
he
quick.
tries to switch his because when he used his right hand, he stepped with his left. So that's kind of like
Yeah,
how he throw the left at the body. Then when he comes
yeah,
up with the right, yeah, he steps with the left.
yeah. It's his. That's the thing. You see him doing all those sparring where he's moving his right hand left. That's why he do it. So when he changes speed, his right hand, his coordination's on point. I was like, oh my god,
Oh,
it's just so ridiculous. I mean, he's crazy. He's crazy.
yeah. So
You know,
who do you think is better to beat? I personally think it's better for Pacquiao to beat Spence than Crawford. But it's kind of hard because I
I
believe
mean,
even though Crawford didn't beat a Hall of Famer, I still think he done enough to be a Hall of Famer, like a future Hall of Famer.
both guys Pacquiao will have a shot at. I'm gonna tell you why. The first one is Spence engages a lot, and Spence would probably do like Keith Thurman and engage Pacquiao. And I'm gonna tell you this: nobody beats Pacquiao at mid range. He got too. He's
Yeah,
too quick
no way.
in
He's
mid
too
range.
quick.
You're not gonna beat him, right? So that's Spence, and then Crawford loves to engage himself, and that would be no.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
believe
work out very
Crawford
well.
would get hurt before Spence. But because
Yeah,
of
he
Crawford
would.
adjustments, I think that is why Crawford will be a harder fight than Spence, like in the later rounds.
I mean, I watched that Crawford versus Gamboa, and I remember the Crawford versus Gamboa fight. But Gamboa, Pacquiao is a lot smarter than that, and so
Way smarter. Way smarter.
he's just way too surgical now. Like the Pacquiao I see now is, to me, he's a little bit more dangerous than the Pacquiao of old because he's so smart now. He doesn't just
Yeah.
jump in at every moment's notice. So it's gonna be hard for anybody. If Pacquiao faces anybody, the only thing they gotta wish for is that Pacquiao gets tired in the middle rounds.
Exactly.
Maybe he can
Yeah.
come back then, you know.
No,
But
but
Pacquiao's a
it's like
problem.
the first couple, I just cannot. Okay, and like basically in this era, I feel like they're more strategic, more fundamental, but they're like missing like the natural,
The speed.
yeah,
He got
speed,
speed.
and things
They're
like
gonna
that,
have to
like
be.
their
They gotta be on
footwork,
their
like
toes. Yeah.
Mayweather, they like to compare Mayweather to Crawford, but
No, 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 no.
like you
Mayweather's
can't.
different.
He's very very quick. Everything he
Yeah,
do, he's talented at, and that's the thing. It's just that
yeah. He's
every
very good at
textbook
everything.
he follows, he's talented at it. He's quick,
Yeah,
he's powerful, he's sharp. But like
he's
Crawford,
very, very sharp.
yeah, and like Crawford like do major adjustments, but before he do the adjustments, he get hit a lot. And that's what I
Yeah, he
noticed
gets
about
too
him.
much.
He gets hit
Too
too
much.
much. And he haven't really fought nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like compared to
I mean,
others.
he's didn't fought nobody at welterweight that I would say. I mean,
Yeah,
Jeff Horn's doing some stuff. We'll see where Jeff Horn's career goes, but Like Khan was a good name, but he's not even top 10 anymore. So it's
Yeah,
like he didn't really face any top 10. He don't really got the experience right now. Like Spence got more experience than Crawford at welterweight, that is.
at welterweight.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if Pacquiao faced Errol Spence, that would be a good fight as well. You know. But Errol Spence would get tattooed quite a lot, at least early on. He wouldn't go down.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Them guys big welterweights, but he gonna be surprised at Pacquiao's speed. To turn to face him, because see what Floyd was doing was when Pacquiao tried to go weak side, Floyd would turn with a pivot with.
Yeah.
But Floyd got really quick feet. Floyd got real quick feet. He's not fast like Pacquiao and throwing combinations and stuff, but he's quick. He's quicker
He's
than
quick.
Pacquiao. He's very, very quick.
So
So
how would
it's
you
hard.
feel if the oh, go ahead, go ahead.
You go ahead.
So how would you feel about that if they vacate the lineal title in the next unification fight for welterweight? Do you think that should wait for undisputed just to make it clear? Just to make
Yeah.
it, yeah, like don't like I do
I
feel
mean,
like they're gonna
Pacquiao
vacate
is
the
the lead.
lineal title.
Isn't Pacquiao the lineal champion right now? No.
No, well he retired, but they never gave it. They never vacated it because remember he
No,
won
but
that by vacate.
no, but Pacquiao won the lineal title after Floyd left. He beat Timothy
Yeah,
Bradley.
yeah, Bradley. Yeah, but he
Right.
retired that year.
Who?
Remember, he officially
Pacquiao?
retired that year. Yeah, and he came back to
Oh,
fight
he did?
Jesse Vargas. So
Oh,
yeah, so the title after winning a vacated title of the lineal, he then retired. So they haven't vacated since then.
okay. So there's no lineal champion right now, or at least ring
No,
lineal.
if it would have been Crawford, if you want to put it
Right.
that way. Yeah.
If
How
if
would it be
Pacquiao
Crawford?
fights if Pacquiao fights Crawford or Spence, I mean that'll be nuts. I mean that'll be a lot of balls to fight those guys. I think he gets beat by both those guys because
You think so?
they're yeah.
Oh man, I
You mean
don't
like when
know.
you say beat, like how when you say beat, like how bad
Stopped
of a beating?
like sense of hell.
I don't know.
You mean
If
like
I had to pick,
stopped? No,
Man,
if I had to
Pacquiao's
pick
not
he's
getting
a
someone who
stopped.
would
41.
Nobody.
stop,
Listen,
I
what
can't see
Marquez
neither of them
did.
stopping Pacquiao. I don't know
Yeah, they can't
because
stop
Spence
Pacquiao.
don't
Can't
really
stop
have
Pacquiao.
that good of a power, and I think Pacquiao like defense would be enough to not get knocked out by Spence.
Yeah, he's
I
not.
don't know.
Pacquiao don't just walk into shots anymore. He don't just run into shots
Yeah.
anymore like that. He's very
Yeah,
much
but
aware of that. That
he's
Marquez.
41 though. I mean, these are young lions.
That don't mean nothing.
Top of
That's why.
they're top of their division for a reason.
Let me tell you something.
Okay, but
Let me
all
tell
right,
you
but
something.
let's look at it
They
like
say
this.
that
Now,
the training go ahead.
okay, you gotta think of Sean Porter. Now, Sean Porter is kind of like the mini Manny Pacquiao, but Pacquiao's the 2.0 of Sean Porter. Same styles. They use their footwork a lot. Wild style, like throw lots of punches, and we see how Spence dealt with that. If it wasn't for the knockdown, many people could have gave it to like Sean Porter, and and people want to talk about this accident. We was looking at the fight. We was already thinking like, hey, Pacquiao got a shot at this, before the accident came because of that fight. Only because Pacquiao had that style. Not saying Errol Spence got exposed to anything. Errol Spence is great. But styles make fights sometimes.
Yeah,
And I'm saying again, Terrence Crawford is kind of the same way like Errol Spence in that Errol Spence actually to me is more careful actually. But
yeah.
before AKA comes in, I think that Terrence would get tattooed quite a lot by Pacquiao. I'm telling you, man, he gonna have to do some speed training like he did for Amir Khan. He gonna have to do. He gonna have to keep his defense tighter than it was against Gabaliauskas. It's gonna have to be a lot cleaner. And Terrence is. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic fighter, but man, Pacquiao. What I seen against Keith Thurman, I just watched it today. Actually, that's how I was like shocked. And how it's hard to knock him out too. It's hard to knock him out, because he can take your best shot and then he can be defensive. And then the moment you think you on top of him, that's when he starts counterpunching you and coming with this barrage of punches, man.
Right.
He comes
Yeah.
back and answering you. And and you think you want, because every time you think you got Pacquiao in a problem, he loved that because he's just waiting to counterpunch you. He's a counterpuncher by nature. So you coming to him is good for him because he doesn't have to go, get past your reach if you're a taller fighter or whatever. So you just kind of close the gap on him, and he just, as soon as you're in range, that's when he mounts his attack, and he don't stop. He just keeps one wave after the other. And that's the problem with Pacquiao.
I don't know. I think Porter's a bad match. I think Porter's just like a better version of Jeff Horn, a little better version, and that was a close fight too. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't think Pacquiao needs that in his life. I think he already fought against. I think that was one of his best wins of his career, Keith Thurman, at the time, and who Keith Thurman is and what Pacquiao's at. So I wouldn't mind a Conor versus Pacquiao, because Conor's kind of froze out of the title picture in UFC.
Yeah.
So, and
he
who's going to make more money? There's no
deserve the
bigger star
money.
than Conor.
I wouldn't be against that fight if Porter fights Pacquiao. I mean, I'm not Porter. Conor McGregor fights Pacquiao. Be a fun fight. Conor probably get beaten up really bad and then stop.
Facts.
But it'd be a great fight. It's two southpaws. Floyd did it. Why not? Pacquiao. Conor, come get another paycheck. Maybe you do a little bit better. Maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, that's a fun fight. I'm not. Like I said before, I'm not open to anything with Pacquiao because his career is pretty much done, and he's just kind of like adding icing on the cake, whatever he wants to do. But it would be crazy if he went against one of those guys, and we're hearing, they were just hearing rumors that he might. But
and you gotta think about it. Like all three of them, like all three of the undefeateds was just a year ago, and Pacquiao already beat one of them. One of them was supposed to beat one another, but Pacquiao took a O first out of the three, and it was the former Olympic fight champion. So it when it comes to resume, Pacquiao is there at this age to where he's still at the level resume wise. You know what I'm saying?
Like but he's not gonna fight.
I'm saying literally he's on that level with these guys, these young bucks. But I guess his experience plays a major key in that. But I think he's
already confirmed. Danny versus Spence. So I don't see Manny Pacquiao versus Spence.
No. Danny Garcia is gonna face Errol Spence next. They're just talking about.
I think next, Danny Garcia.
I think Pacquiao is
going to be a good fight. Errol Spence and Danny Garcia is going to be a good fight. I think Errol Spence takes him. I don't believe he's going to stop him. Yeah, I think Errol Spence is going to take Danny.
There's certain fighters that just can't be stopped, and Danny Garcia is one of them. Keep them hit him with his best money punch.
I don't see him getting stopped.
And he didn't go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are guys that just won't get stopped. Sean Porter's a guy that won't get stopped. It's the training that these guys have. Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence. You can't stop Errol Spence. That's not happening anytime soon. He spars like what? He spars light heavyweights. He spars heavyweights. They hit him all the time. He's not going to get stopped. Okay, you got to be big, really big.
And I haven't really seen him hurt. And when him and Timothy Bradley had they was going back and forth, and Errol Spence is like, when have you ever seen me hurt? And I had to think about that. I was like, never, bro. Like, if I think of the Kell Brook fight, Kell Brook gave him a hard fight, but the thing is, I never seen Errol Spence hurt throughout that fight. Probably like one time, and that was because more of the arm going around the rope was really more of the arm. But besides that, Errol Spence is he got.
But Errol Spence walks around. If he's not training or anything, he walks around 180, 190 pounds.
Yeah, he cuts.
He's tremendously huge. So it's like you're not gonna knock that guy out. Right. So
I think Danny has a shot because I mean, last time we counted Danny out was the Lucas Matisse fight. I mean that's really surprising.
He didn't stop Lucas Matisse though. He didn't stop him.
He did it. I mean, but he outboxed him and put him through the ropes.
Yeah, he did. He did well. And Danny hits like a freight train. If you really get hit by Danny, it could put you to sleep. But
Yeah, with
I
that
just
no
see
look
these
left
guys.
hook.
Okay,
Man,
look like
yeah,
Frazier.
you know what I mean. If he hits you with that, you're gone.
Yeah,
But
that.
I don't think LL get
No
hit by
look
it.
with it too. He don't even look while he's doing it. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they
Pacquiao
call
don't look
that
when he's throwing his left hook either. Pacquiao
yeah.
be little low. They know what they doing when they throw it. You
Yeah.
know, they good, man. They good. I'm telling you, man. The guys today are different kind of beasts. Like you throw them in a throwback fight, and they probably walk through the punches of them other guys and just beat them up. And then it was so much bigger. We got
Mute your
we don't
mic.
have same day weightings anymore, so they'd be bigger.
Mute your mic.
Beast.
Mute your mic.
Me?
Mute your mic real quick and turn it back on. Yeah. Okay, turn it back on. Turn it back on.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
let me just roll through the last two. I think I'm running out of minutes for
Okay,
the
yeah.
StreamYard. I only got like maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. So let's just run through a couple others. Okay, we talked about Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. Did we talk about that? Who you guys picked to
we did.
win?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, cool. Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin. You guys know who that is? Them two guys?
Yeah.
The heavyweights.
Yeah,
Who you think
one of the most.
who do you think will win?
I think Dylan White. I think he has. Well, they both have really good experience. But I mean, that guy's a PD user. Povetkin.
Dillian White? I don't know
Him
if
too,
they didn't
wasn't
say it was PED. They say it was like a metabolite that could have come
he?
from a PED.
Yeah, but I meant the Russian, of course. He's
Oh,
been
Povetkin?
twice. Yeah.
Yeah, he was accused PED user. That's correct.
So I mean, gotta go with White, I guess. Based off that, really, got the more
My
experience.
bad,
So.
y'all. But y'all said Tyson Wilder.
Yeah, we're talking about Dillian White and Alexander Povetkin.
Okay. All right, I can go back to it.
Okay, cool. You were breaking up for a minute. I'm gonna try and go through this as quickly as possible. Daniel Dubois versus Joyce. That's another heavyweight matchup.
So he got on that fight.
Me.
What do you
I
guys
got
have?
Daniel Dubois. I got Dubois. Chris?
Oh, I can't hear your mic. What? Oh, no,
Yeah, I can't hear your mic.
Hey, what?
Can you hear me now?
Your mic. Nah.
Can you hear me?
Like it's like I can't with your voice.
Can you hear me? Okay, I think this is probably coming to an end. So I'm gonna catch you guys. You can't hear me. Okay.
Can't hear you. Nope.
That's for me.
Damn, we got shut down.
Yeah, I think we got shut down. I think so. Yeah.
We speaking the truth. That's why. We talking.
No. It's I'm running out of minutes.
Right.
If you guys could do a StreamYard sometime.
Can't hear you, bro.
Yeah. So I'm gonna catch you later.
Thanks for having me on the show, man. Show was cool.
AKU anytime. Anytime. Yeah, man. Bless again. Have a good one. Yeah, you too.